Today we are going to see how this archaeologist went on a quest to find an ark that has 10 commandments. But there's a twist. Our movie starts in the dark jungles of South America, where Indy Jones and his crew are searching for a cave. At the entrance of the cave, Jones fills a bag with sand to use it later. This cave is full of deadly traps set by the ancient people to protect the valuable statue inside. Jones avoids all the booby traps and reaches near the golden idol of the ancient god. He carefully replaces the golden idol with the bag of sand. However, the weight of the bag is not precise and the chamber starts collapsing. Jones and his friend start running outside but are met with a bottomless pit. His friend makes it to the other side using the whip they used earlier, but refuses to give Jones his whip unless Jones gives him the idol. Jones throws the idol at him, but he drops the whip and runs off. Jones manages to jump across and escape the stone door right before it shuts down. Outside the door, Jones finds his scammer friend who got killed in a trap. He picks up the idol and moves along. Jones manages to avoid being crushed under a big boulder. Outside the chamber there are anxious tribal men and Dr. Renee, Jones' rival, waiting for Indy Jones. Jones gives his pistol and the idol to Dr. Renee. Renee raises the idol in joy and all the tribals bow down. Seeing this opportunity, Jones flees the place and gets onto a plane. Back in the States, Jones is an archaeological teacher and is still disappointed about the lost statue. Their two army intelligence officers are waiting for him. The officers tell Jones that the Germans are digging up an ancient city in the Egyptian desert that has the Ark of Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant contains the stone tablets on which Moses wrote the 10 Commandments. These commandments were taken by Babylonian king after his invasion of the Temple of Solomon. This ark is so powerful that the army that carries the ark into battle is invincible. This ark needs the headpiece to the staff of Ra, which reveals the location of the ark. The headpiece of the staff is with Ravenwood, Indy's old teacher who is now living in Nepal. Indy flies to Nepal to get the headpiece from his teacher but comes to know that he is dead. Indy asks his daughter Marion about the piece, but Marion refuses to help Jones because they've broken up many years ago. Later, after much persuasion, she agrees to find the piece. Shortly after Jones leaves, Arnold Todt, a Nazi agent, and several men enters the bar and torture Marion for the headpiece. Just then Jones comes in and fights the men. During the fight, Arnold finds the headpiece, but when he grabs it he gets badly burned, thus leaving the image of the piece on his hand. Jones and Marion run outside the burning bar after getting the headpiece for themselves. The two then flies to Egypt to meet Jones' friend Salah, an archaeologist who is dealing with the Nazi site and who tells that the Nazis are supported by a French archaeologist, Dr. Renee. Although much of the site is dug up by the Nazis, they will never find the ark's location without the headpiece. Later at the bazaar, Jones and Marion are attacked by Nazi agents. They kidnap Marion. When Jones tries to find her, a man handling a sword tries to intimidate Jones. Soon Jones finds the basket carrying Marion, but she is killed in the explosion in front of his eyes. Jones is heartbroken over losing Marion. He drowns his sorrows in alcohol. Just then two men appear and take him to Dr. Renee. Their Dr. Renee's men try to kill him, but Jones is saved by Salah's kids who escort him to Salah. Jones and Salah then met a shaman who reads the headpiece and reveals the exact height of the staff of Ra, and the staff that Nazis were using was too long, and hence the Nazis were digging in wrong place. Later Jones creeps into the digging site and enters an underground chamber, which has an exact miniature replica of the ancient city. Using the headpiece, Jones finds out the ark's exact burial site, known as the Well of Souls. Further roaming into the site, Jones finds Marion, alive and bound up. He is delighted to see Marion alive, but decides to leave her there to avoid the suspicion of the Nazis. Late that afternoon, Jones and Salah sneak their own digging party to the actual place of the Well of Souls. In the midnight, the party successfully open up the roof of the chamber. And to Indy's shock, the chamber is full with snakes. He clears the room by lighting the snakes on fire. Salah and Jones then remove the giant stone to discover the golden ark, which is shining brightly in the dark chamber. After the ark is pulled out of the chamber, Dr. Renee and the Nazi party shows up at the chamber's door. They steal the ark, throw Marion into the chamber and close the chamber, trapping Jones and Marion inside. While fighting with the snakes, Jones notices some holes in the wall that snakes are crawling through. He then climbs on a statue, breaks it and crashes through the wall. The next chamber is filled with horrifying corpses. But the two then finds their way out of the chamber into an airfield where the Nazis are flying the Ark out of Egypt. They then fights the Nazis and destroy their plane. The Germans then attempt to move the Ark through trucks. Seeing this, Jones starts chasing the trucks on a horse. He successfully retrieves the Ark from Nazis and leaves for America. The Nazi submarine captures their ship and take the Ark and Marion with them while Jones hides from them. The submarine arrives at the Nazi naval base, and Jones disguises himself as one of the soldiers. When the party reaches a canyon, Jones threatens them with a rocket launcher to return Marion and the Ark. Here Dr. Renee challenges Jones's false front, knowing that Jones also wants to know what's inside the Ark. Knowing that Renee has called Jones bluffs, Jones is busted. Then the party reaches the top of the mountain to carry out the rituals. Jones and Marion, tied to a pole, can only look as the Ark is opened. Inside the Ark, the stone tablets on which the 10 Commandments were written have now turned to sand. And everyone seems disappointed. Suddenly all the electronic devices start to blast on their own and hundreds of spirits start to appear from the Ark. Jones, recalling an old scripture that requires people to shut their eyes and not to look at the free spirits, tells Marion to do so. The energy of the Ark rises from the Ark and its spirits annihilate the entire batch of Nazis. The energy then carries each corpse straight into the sky before returning into the Ark. The story then shifts to a week later where the two army officers are congratulating Jones about successfully returning the Ark to them. But they refuse to share the location with Jones. Later we are shown that the Ark is being sealed in a crate in a large secret warehouse with lots of similar crates.